Saw dudes, I am officially unbanned on Warframe, so now I can show you guys builds. Today I want to present the build that got me banned, which is actually another Sevagoth build suggested by a viewer. If you're watching this, Tommy, thank you, your ideas were extremely innovative. Unlike my other videos, I will not provide an ability overview, and I will instead direct you to watch the dedicated video for the frame. The end of the video will provide more context to the build and its pros and cons. Let's get started. The game loop for this Sevagoth build is extremely simple. When on a mission, you want to spam Tempest Barrage on a group of enemies to apply viral and corrosive status. After that, use Sow on the same enemies, followed by Reap. This will one-shot the group and create more shadows, repeating the loop. Use Tempest Barrage on the next group and continue the loop. Should you die, use Shadow to revive. Rinse and repeat. There is only one build for this video since we are using a helmet setup from the get-go. If you want other build options, please consider watching the dedicated guide. The aura will be brief respite since Sevagoth relies on shield gating to stay alive in high level activities. This mod refunds 150% of energy spent back to shields, which allows us to top up our shield gate time. The Exilus mod can be prime sure-footed if you'd like, however, I usually choose between Power Drift and Cunning Drift. Catalyzing Shields works with Brief Respite to fully recharge shields after one cast of Sow or 2 casts of Reap. It also sets our shield gate duration to 1.33 seconds, which is enough time to find cover or perform evasive maneuvers. Prime Continuity extends the debuff duration from Reap and reduces the energy drain per enemy from Gloom. Since both abilities are integral to our kit, it's best to have some form of ability duration. Plus, we don't have Transient Fortitude, so we have more total duration overall compared to other builds. Equilibrium and Prime Flow pad out our energy economy and provide enough energy regen and stores to keep the game loop smooth. Equilibrium will have to be used with Synth Deconstruct, so mod your companion accordingly. Instead of Transient Fortitude on the normal build, we're going to use Viral Tempest, which causes each projectile from Tempest Barrage to have a 100% chance to apply viral status to an enemy on hit. This does scale with ability strength, meaning you can apply more than one stack on hit if you use Molt Augmented or Sling Strength. Stretch increases the range of Gloom, Reap, Sow, and the explosions from Tempest Barrage. The range bonus only increases the explosion size of each projectile, not the area covered, unfortunately. Shadow Haze causes Death's Harvest to grant our weapons a flat critical chance buff. Enemies affected by Reap or Death's Harvest spawn a new Reap Shadow on death up to a max of 3. Reap applies Death's Harvest to enemies, meaning that we have a constant 50% flat crit chance steroid. Finally, we have Dark Propagation, which is an augment for Sow. Enemies that are killed while affected by Sow spread its effect in a 15-meter radius, and Shadow's Death's Harvest also inflicts Sow. This essentially turns Sevagoth into a nuke machine, and allows his Reap and Sow combo to reapply itself within crowds. Enemies that die will continue the chain reaction and allow for easier kills. This next build is only for revives and not used in normal combat. Since we are running Tempest Barrage over the Shadow, we are not going to build for its abilities, and instead we're going to focus on the self-revival aspect. If you want an alternative build for full ability usage, please refer to the dedicated build guide on the other video. The aura doesn't matter much since we're just using it for the extra mod capacity. Prime Sure-Footed keeps Shadow immune to knockdowns, allowing you to get the revive off without pesky staggers. Cunning Drift increases the range of Consume and also increases slide distance. Fortitude, Vigilante Vigor, and Fast Deflection all increase shield recharge rate up to 59 shield points per second after a 0.2 second delay. Rapid Resilience reduces status duration on Shadow by 75%, making it much easier to tank gas, heat, and electric procs. Adaptation allows us to tank slightly more damage. Catalyzing Shields gives us a 1.33 second shield gate and works in tandem with the shield regen triad. Finally, we have Rolling Guard for the 3 seconds of invulnerability as a last resort option. Keep in mind that this is a helmet build and we are subsuming Tempest Barrage over Exalted Shadow, hence the reason why we are using a revive only build. As already mentioned, Tempest Barrage with the Viral Tempest Augment drastically increases the damage of Reap and Sow, so let's talk about the calculations. On screen you will see the damage calculations for the Reap and Sow combo with the math to boot. Essentially, the build stacks viral status and corrosive status to increase the percent health damage to 100%, from the base 25% at 100 ability strength. Usually, Sevagoth builds revolve around high strength to brute force the instant kill. With this build, the viral and corrosive status applied via Viral Tempest increases the percent health damage through the use of Tauforged Emerald Shards. While you could use regular Emerald Shards, you would require more viral procs on each enemy. With 4 Tauforged Shards, you need 3 viral stacks. With 4 normal shards, you would require 5 viral stacks. It may not seem like a big difference, but waiting for an extra viral application can get you killed. If you have extra shards lying around, I would consider the investment worth your time. This Arcane section will cover both Sevagoth and his Shadow. For Sevagoth, the best Arcane options are Arcane Energize and Molt Augmented. For Shadow, I like using Arcane Aegis and Barrier. I don't like recommending Arcane Energize due to it being non-essential on most builds, but for Sevagoth, I need to make an exception. With Gloom making it impossible to have energy regen over time, it's hard to maintain healthy energy levels. Since we are running a shield gate setup, we can't really justify running out of energy in high-level missions, hence the recommendation. If you subsume off Gloom, you may not need to use this Arcane, but you will need an alternative form of energy generation. Multi-Augmented is a near mandatory arcane. Having this on the build allows us to outsource ability strength and lets us hit 160% ability strength. This build does not need ability strength per se, but the extra stat will make kills a lot easier to achieve and give us an extra bit of leeway. With the extra strength, we don't need as many viral stacks to kill enemies. With a 60% bonus, the base 25% current health damage gets increased to 40%. At 40% current health damage, you will only need 1 viral stack and 1 corrosive stack to one-hit an enemy with 4 Tauforge Emerald Shards or 4 regular Emerald Shards, essentially equalizing the playing field. For Shadow, Aegis serves as a safeguard, making revival much easier. Aegis makes Shadow that much harder to kill, and essentially acts as a safeguard and level cap should you choose to take this build there. Barrier is much of the same. Instead of increasing shield regen rate, Barrier refreshes shields completely. Although it does have a cooldown, it adds another layer of security. You will find yourself in bad situations occasionally, and this arcane can save your butt. The main focus school I would use is Madurai. As mentioned earlier, ability strength is not required, but much appreciated, so Madurai fits the bill perfectly. Power Transfer grants the casting speed that Sevagoth needs to pull off his Reap and Sow combo efficiently. This is important for making Tempest Barrage spam faster and more efficient. Sling Strength activates after 2 consecutive Void Slings and grants a 40% extra ability strength. If you are trying to outsource ability strength, this buff is perfect. The extra strength comes in handy when applying more viral status via Tempest Barrage and increases the base health damage from the Reap and Sow combo. Void Strike and Void Fuel are only used in level cap Void Cascade or Eidolon hunts. While they're nice, they do not affect Sevagoth's basic hit or any helmet abilities. However, if you need to kill an HVT quickly, be sure to use Void Strike, since our abilities are mainly used for fodder and not special enemy units. The Archon shards are incredibly simple. I'm using a Tauforge Amber Shard for casting speed and 4 Tauforge Emerald Shards to increase ability damage on enemies affected by corrosive status. As usual, a casting speed shard is recommended since it makes gameplay more fluid and makes ability casting much easier. This will keep you more mobile and prevent you from dying to locked in positions. The Emerald Shards, as already mentioned earlier, increase the percent health damage dealt by the Sow and Reap combo. I highly suggest using Tauforge Shards if you have the chance, since it will bring up the total damage increase from 40% to 60%. It may not seem like a massive jump, but in endurance content, it will make your life a lot easier. Finally, let's cover some of the pros and cons for this build. I actually find this build to be very fun and effective, so it is viable, but for others, it may not hit all the boxes they require. So why don't we start with the bad news to rip off the band-aid. The first con is that your helmet slot is taken up by Tempest Barrage. While it is necessary for the build, you are losing the usage of other abilities such as Roar. Roar is a universal Bane mod in a sense, and increases the damage of Sevagoth's abilities and weapons. It also double dips status damage, so it has great value on a frame like Sevagoth, whose augments further increase weapon damage. Tempest Barrage is not a bad ability, it just isn't the same. Secondly, the Archon shard investment for such a build is quite steep. To get optimal results, you want to use 4 Tauforge Emerald Shards, which is more like 4 Tauforge Amber Shards and 4 Tauforge Azure Shards, since you will need to combine them for the emeralds. Other Sevagoth builds will only require Crimson Shards for ability strength, which is a much easier investment to muster up. The third is that with a low strength build, we can't take full advantage of the crit bonus granted by Shadow Haze, one of the augment mods. At base, this mod grants a flat 50% bonus crit chance to enemies affected by Death's Harvest. This is a lot since it acts in the same way as Arcane Avenger, but with a standard high strength build, this value would be a lot higher. With the bad news out of the way, let's get to the good stuff. Pro number 1 is that with the low strength build, you have a bit more safety, since Tempest Barrage staggers enemies a lot. Combined with Gloom, the stagger animation gets drawn out, meaning enemies are completely helpless against you. Pro number 2 is that you are actively supporting your teammates' outgoing damage as well as your own. Since Tempest Barrage applies corrosive and viral status, your teammates will be doing more damage overall, which is nice. While it isn't the same as Roar, you don't have to have the same restriction of being within range of them upon initial cast. Finally, this build is level cap viable. I took this to level cap once, and while I did die a couple of times, I was able to self-revive with the passive ability Sevagoth has. I died multiple times during the run with the conventional build, so honestly, it's a skill issue on my end. My point is, this build is viable and fun, so it comes down to personal preference and playstyle. That is it for the build that got me banned. I think, unless they choose to ban me again. I want to apologize for taking my time with this video. Work and school are a priority in my life, and beyond that, the ban kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I love this game a lot, and I don't cheat, so it's a bit annoying. However, I will be creating more content, and I don't plan on quitting anytime soon. I have big ambitions, and I can't wait to work with more of you. I would not be here without everyone watching. Thank you for your ongoing support. With that being said, let me know what you guys think. If you have any suggestions or thoughts, leave them in the comments. As always, thank you all for watching and happy farming. Stay safe.